is ZMS.
The Rundown is brought to you by Commonwealth Brewery Limited. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the show. It's a brand new week. Glad to have you joining us. First of all, let me say, we were expecting to have the Valley Boys on tonight, but of course they were forced to cancel after their legal team advised them not to speak on the matter, which is expected to go before the courts. So we certainly hope they can sort this out. I know many people want to see the Valley Boys on Bay Street. I know the Saxons prefer to beat one team rather than two, so we're hoping and wishing for the best as they get to it. But let's get to some other news that's important tonight. So y'all standing in the studio, y'all Valley Boys people, relax, calm down. All right, let's get to our news story tonight. Just as soon as it was made public, a quick response followed. The Prime Minister today moving quickly to shut down growing fears of increased water bills and new taxes on private wells. For more on that story, Devontae Hanna joins me tonight in studio live to talk more about this. Devontae, obviously he wasted no time getting in at it. Tell us more on this story.
Certainly, Clint. The Prime Minister, the Honourable Philip Davis, he put it quite simply. He said that those claims are absolutely false. That firm response to concerns raised that the government plans to raise water rates or impose taxes on homeowners with private wells. And this on the heels of reports detailing proposals from the Water and Sewage Corporation in its 2023-2028 corporate business plan that allegedly includes potential rate increases and new taxes on private wells. Well, a report in a local daily today citing documents from the Inter-American Development Bank prompting public speculation that water bills were on the way up. But according to the Prime Minister, no decision has been made.
Has caused Bahamians to believe that the government has taken some decision to increase water prices. That is absolutely not true. There's no intention of government to raise water rates at any time, nor will we be taxing wells. In fact, the recommendations have been made many, many years for the taxing of wells dating back to the Clint administration and increasing of water rate dating back to the Clint administration. We do not intend to do either, tax wells or raise water rate.
Well, there you have it, and according to that newspaper article, it was the Minister of State in the Office of the Prime Minister with responsibility for the Water and Sewage Corporation, the Honourable Leon Lundy, who said that he disclosed that the proposals are part of ongoing discussions. But of course, he clarified that those recommendations are still in the preliminary phases and have not yet been finalized. Now, when we reached out to Lundy, he opted not to speak.
Devontae, I can imagine he's not speaking. No one's going to speak behind the Prime Minister.
Of course.
So is this etched in stone? I think we want to know, were there other recommendations that were made in this particular report?
Well, of course, we understand that there were desalination tanks and increasing taxes on those, as well as equipment for private wells. But these proposals, like all other water rates, are subject to cabinet, that is, approval and for further review. Now, Prime Minister Davis' statement put it to rest, and those growing fears are all gone as that impending price hike, of course, is no more. He emphasized that no formal decision has been made, and the government remains committed to providing affordable water access to all Bahamians.
All right, Devontae Hanna reporting. I want you to stick around, Devontae. We want to get your take on this next story we're going to talk about, which is really Climate Week in New York, where the UN General Assembly is taking place as well for world leaders and tackling the issue at the Concordia Annual Summit in New York today. Prime Minister Philip Davis sought to again drive home the urgency of shifting from the words to tangible solutions and bold investments, but having the courage to break free from outdated systems and practices. And he reasons that for that to happen, there must be a steadfast commitment to collaborate. And after all, the cost of inaction is great.
We as leaders must acknowledge that this is not a burden to be shared, but an opportunity to be seized, to build more resilient infrastructure, to create a cleaner and more efficient energy systems, and to foster innovation that drives economic growth. In the Bahamas, we are not sitting back and waiting. We are charting our own course, leading from the front lines of climate change with a blueprint for a more sustainable future.
Now, the Prime Minister, whose comments come on the heels of his address to Climate Week in New York City, acknowledged, though, that despite celebrations and challenges, case in point, competition from an international order, increasing temperatures leading to drought, the Bahamas preserves mitigating a crisis it did not cause. The hope is that others will follow.
To the captains of industry, let us move beyond pledges and invest in real, tangible solutions. Direct your capital towards renewable energy, sustainable infrastructure, and climate-resilient technologies. Support the innovators in climate-vulnerable countries. Partner with us to scale up the solutions that are already working. To policymakers, let us enact bold, transformative policies that accelerate the transition to a low-carbon, climate-resilient future. End fossil fuel subsidies, implement carbon pricing mechanisms, invest in nature-based solutions, and ensure that climate action is integrated into every aspect of policymaking. To the innovators, the disruptors, the change makers, let us place climate action at the heart of our technological advancements. Let us seize this opportunity, not with apprehension, but with a renewed sense of purpose.
All right, now, Devonta, you've been reporting on this for some time now as a reporter. Do you believe Bahamians are getting this message and understanding the seriousness surrounding climate change, or is it just a cliche?
I think after Hurricane Dorian, a lot of Bahamians have opened their eyes to see what climate change can really do for us. When you look at the increased intensity of these storms, when you feel how hot it is from day to day, I think it was July 22nd earlier this year, we had our hottest day on record across the world. When you look at now, you're seeing areas across the capital that are flooding that years when I was younger, when you were younger as well, it didn't flood. All of these are results of climate change, and I think it's now, the scales from Bahamians' eyes are now opening to see what it really is.
What frightens me when you hear the realistic stories that began from Prime Minister Christie was in office, and now Prime Minister Davis carried it through. And that is when you look at portions of, they always talk about a go slow bend out west, and how the land has been reclaimed by water. They used to talk about being able to walk out further to that area, and that area is no more. It's now water. So it helps you understand that when we talk about the land being reclaimed, it's a serious thing that we can become, Prime Minister Davis always talks about it, climate refugees. A lot of people probably think, well, what does that really mean? It means that you don't have a home anymore, and you've got to relocate and live somewhere else because of what's going on in the atmosphere and what's happening with climate. We're susceptible. As our nation lies, we're susceptible, and there are portions of the Bahamas that can be no more. People will tell you stories now that there are portions of the Bahamas that are no more right now, land-wise, because of water. And I think when you hear that story, and people who've been through Dorian in Abaco and in Grand Bahama, they understand the ferociousness of weather systems, so they know firsthand. And they're the ones who don't play around with weather systems.
Right.
When they hear instructions, they take heed because they've seen the wrath of these storms that are becoming stronger every year.
And believe it or not, some people from Abaco and Grand Bahama, even when they hear rain,
it triggers something. It triggers it because the reality of what it can do hits us. Now, in the capital, I think a lot of us aren't getting it because we've been fortunate. We've been not to have had a direct hit from any hurricane in years, and thank God for continuing keeping us. But the reality is, it's a real issue, and it's what the government claims that they've been spending all this time doing. And so hopefully, as we continue to do these stories, people understand the message and the importance of it, that it does affect you in one way or the next. And people will be surprised on how it can affect them. And my next guest after the break is going to talk a lot more about that. But thank you. Keep up the good work. Keep reporting and keeping our Bahamian people informed of the seriousness of that. And stay with us. When we come back, we are going to talk to an expert in climate change. She is a special advisor in the Office of the Prime Minister. And she'll talk about, you know, people talk about all this travel the Prime Minister doing as an ambassador for climate change for the Bahamas. She'll explain to you why that's happening. She's a technical expert who's on the ground and around the world for the Bahamas. So are we getting any yield from this? Are we making any sense doing this? She's the one who's been at the helm of it, and she'll talk about it when we come back. You're watching The Rundown. We're back after this.
What I don't need all that bird, that don't make a shoot. Yeah, I like the beach, but I don't go in water. Just grab me a Clint, that's the bear of the Bahamas. I like to go down. Oh yeah, oh yeah.
JSC Bank, JMC TCI, and Sunset Village Fish Fry present I'm a Boatman, featuring Katie and Fred. D-Mac, Tino D, Nishi Ellen, Sweet Emily, Wilfred Sullivan, Funky D, DPS, Veronica Bishop, Papa Smurf, Gerard Taylor, Lil Joe Cartwright, Mama D, Colin McDonald, Chad Cully, and the VIP. And from Turks Island, the Proficient Band, and host Super P. There'll also be performances by The Swinger and the Platinum Nights Joking Crew. Sunday, October 13th at Sunset Village Fish Fry, 8 Mile Road. Sponsored by the Ministry of Grand Bahama and the Ministry of Tourism.
Welcome to our SBDC Business Tips, where we share valuable insights with small business owners. From practical advice to actionable tips, we're here to support you on your journey to success. Build a strong brand. Building a strong brand is crucial for long-term success in today's competitive business landscape. Your brand is more than just a logo. It's the essence of your business. Invest time and effort into developing a strong brand identity that reflects your values, mission, and personality. A strong brand can help you to stand out in a crowded market, build trust with your customers, and foster a long-term relationship that drives business success. We hope you find these business tips helpful. To help your business reach its full potential, visit sbdcbahamas.com or give us a call at 242-461-SBDC.
Welcome back to the Rundown. A special welcome to all of you in the Lions Den online. It's so good to have you. Make sure to leave your comments and your questions, and we'll be able to get them. As soon as you put them there, we'll get them to you. But it's good to have all of you. My special guest in this segment is Special Advisor in the Office of the Prime Minister on Climate Change and Environment Matters, and she's been on the forefront of this whole fight against climate change and of climate change. Welcome, Rochelle Nouveau. It's so good to have you with us, Rochelle. I've had the opportunity when I during my time in the Office of the Prime Minister to work and to with you and to see you in action. And I'm one of those ones who, you know, you helped to make me a firm believer in what it is that we were seeing with climate change and the impact on our country, because it is real. And you and your team have been busy throughout the world trying to push and claim this fight for us as Bahamians. I guess I want to start right there. And I'm going to start with an obvious question. Is this real?
I think just as you said in your introductory comments, everybody now appreciates that climate change is real. Whether you were in Dorian, whether you were in Matthew, whether or not your electricity bills are going up, the heat of every morning when you wake up, there is definitely a change, whether you wish to call it climate change or whatever you want to call it. The world is changing, and there is no doubt about that. When we look at international news, we see that even in our developed country partners, long, prolonged forest fires. We see the glacial melt of the North Pole. We see the changes in the biological diversity happening around the world. We go to the beach to cool off and we're still hot.
The signs are everywhere.
So something is going on. Whether you want to call it climate change or not, the world is changing.
I know this week is the focus is climate change, Climate Week in the United Nations in New York. It's Climate Week this week. Is that enough, just having a focus on climate change, or is the world actually responding to the severity of what's happening in countries?
I think, generally speaking, there are incremental changes that are occurring. And the issue here is whether or not you are a part of the change or you're sitting back and watching it happen. Climate Week in New York is a very instrumental and important part of that change, because here we would see leaders who are going to set the tone for what's going to happen at COP29. The Bahamas, as usual, punching above its beltway. We're the one who is setting the tone. The Prime Minister has had the honor of setting the tone for all the developed countries. His speech spoke to everything that we are feeling, we are experiencing, the struggle that we are in, and we as a people need to appreciate that. When we look back in history, it would be the Bahamas who set the tone, who gave the charge, who put out the call for people to stop the talk and actually do what is necessary. We see what happened in the Muslim countries and their religious activities where thousands of people died because of heat, just literally died because it was too hot. We see that our European colleagues are now facing extensive floods that are making its way through various states within the EU. And all of this is unprecedented. They never thought about this. They didn't expect this to happen to them. We have been sitting in that space for a long time, and now they are joining us. Now they can truly appreciate when we talk about these issues what that really means.
Are we winning this fight? Are we seeing any return on our efforts? Are we seeing any change?
Well, 39 countries of this world are the smallest. They're the small island states of the world. And we're fighting hard against what our developed partners are doing, which are the G20 and the big boys. These are the ones who are creating the problem that we are inheriting because of the level of development that they have enjoyed for decades, right? What we have done in 1996 with the Paris Agreement, we all agreed, yes, you have profited, you've created the circumstance, and you have to help us make these adjustments that are now, these chickens that are now coming home to roost, we need your assistance in addressing them. You've agreed to that. So going to these meetings is always pulling that card, reminding them that it is your responsibility to help us help ourselves, because you are constantly contributing to the level of impacts that we're suffering. And it's not that we can go in there and turn the tap off in your house. You must turn that tap off, because if we try to break and enter, then, you know, there's a whole lot of other issues. Exactly. Yeah. So getting them to understand and appreciate, you cannot have anybody understand what it is to walk in your shoes unless you give them your shoes to walk in. And you can't do that if you're not engaging with them. So it is important for us to be at the table. It is important for us to engage, because it is our constant reminder, our constant demand for them to do the right thing. If we're not there, then they're going to sit on their laurels and be comfortable and say everything's okay, nobody's complaining. But we must be that aggravating point that's poking at them, because the earth is crying out, and the Bahamians have always been attuned to our physical environment. And these individuals who have been a part of the developed nations are sitting up in high rises, enjoying air condition. You know, they're chilling out, they're playing their games. They're not as in tune with the environment as we are. But now they're experiencing what we have because of the fires, because of the smoke, because of the flooding. Now they're starting to appreciate what's that going on out there, where we've been sitting out there this whole time, battling the elements that they have created.
At COP27 in Egypt, a major breakthrough came when it was decided that, yes, this fund needs to be established. This fund, we need to be able to put this in place so that people can access funding for those stations, for those countries that are vulnerable. Has that happened yet, and what is the holdup? Right,
so yes, when we were in Dubai, we finally got what we've been battling for 30 long years. The agreement that there would be a loss and damage fund. And countries then agreed to provide, they made their initial contributions, which totaled $800 million. We know $800 million is insufficient to deal with global loss and damage due to climate change, because even just the small island states of the world being 39, we have all the African states, all the least developed countries of the world. They're part of this accessing to the fund. So now we just returned back from a meeting in Baku in Azerbaijan, where we had the third meeting of the Loss and Damage Fund. And I'm happy to say that the Bahamas holds a seat on that board. So us, Antigua, Barbados, we are fighting the cause for the Caribbean to ensure that the other board members do not forget what this fund is about, where this money needs to be held, and how it needs to be managed. We brokered a deal with the World Bank so that they would be able to assist in the administration of the funds, because our developed partners felt like, well, we don't know if you can really handle all this hundreds of millions of billions of dollars you're asking for. But they were comfortable with the World Bank, so we negotiated with the World Bank. We came to an agreement. We've engaged an executive director. So when we go to COP in COP29, we are a business open to receive all the donations you are willing to give us, that you are required to give us, that you've promised promised to give us. And so there will be no issue about how it will be administered. We see when Beryl came through a few months ago in the Caribbean, it tucked and it hit every island in the region. No $800 million is going to be able to address anything that comes. And as we continue to expect more intense hurricanes, we know the damage is going to be great. You mentioned the issue of climate refugees. Our Pacific partners who are part of the 38 islands of the world, they're already negotiating with Australia for places that they can move their people because the ocean has already started to reclaim their islands. So they have to move, not later, now. Now they have to move. And we in the Bahamas, we have been so privileged to not have to experience that at the extent that they have, but it is creeping in, like you say. You talked about Go Slow Bend. I want to draw the attention to Adelaide. When we go straight to the end of Adelaide Road, there used to be a graveyard there.
Wow.
That has long since been gone. And we will continue to see more and more of the land being consumed by the sea. And you cannot over-engineer Mother Nature. We have to work in tandem with her. We have to use nature-based solutions to address our needs.
I want to take a break. When we come back, people are asking online, I feel the same way. What can we do? What can Bahamians do to play their role in protecting this beautiful land that we call the Bahamas? What could we do? I see Savi Benabi saying, what's the solution to this? And so many others are asking the same thing too. Somebody said, pack your bags. But I mean, the reality is there's something we can do now. And I want to talk about that after the break. Stay close. You're watching The Rundown. We're back after this.
Is the Little Caesars Stuffed Crust Pizza. Get more pizza for less money. Only $12. It's a whole new level of pizza with cheese stuffed crust so spectacular that there's nothing left.
Pizza.
A delicious pepperoni pizza with the crust stuffed with lots of cheese and brushed with butter and garlic flavor and sprinkled with Parmesan cheese. Hot and ready Thursday to Saturday between 4 and 8 for only $12. Simply irresistible. And only at Little Caesars.
Pizza.
Hey, what's up, Mario?
Hey, Dale, what's going on?
Have you seen ZNS new digital platforms?
No. Let me go check it out.
Good day, Bahamas. I'm Devontae Hanna, and this is ZNS Digital,
where we cater to your news and entertainment needs. Are you a foodie? I thought so. Then look out for Digital Bites.
Shining a light on Bahamians and the good that they do, ZNS Digital is home to the sunshine one.
Keeping up with the latest trends, our original content will keep you entertained.
Yeah, that's cool.
But have you seen the new website?
No, I didn't see it. Let me go look.
We're still your most trusted source for news and information.
That's ZNS Digital?
Yeah, that's ZNS Digital, the people station in your pocket.
From June 1st to November 30th, the ZNS Radio and Television Network is the #1 source in the Bahamas for hurricane information before, during, and after a storm. Now is the time to choose your radio and television hurricane season ad packages. Get extra special rates and run the ads only when you want them to run. Call the ZNS sales office today at 502-3800.
Welcome back to The Rundown. We're talking about climate change. It's important. It's Climate Week at the United Nations, and so we're giving some time and focus on it, particularly as a nation where we're still susceptible to climate change. We ought to be talking about it. We ought to be talking about it more. And if you're not talking about it, you ought to start talking about it, because you either will be impacted by it or you've known someone who's been impacted by it. These strong storms and hurricanes, these heavy rainfalls, the significant amount of flooding, all of these are the result of climate change. And it's something you ought to be aware of, because it impacts the future. And you may not be around to see it, but your children and your children's children and their children's children will be around and impacted by it and could possibly not have a Bahamas. Could you imagine we have all of these beautiful islands and to say one of them we lose because of flooding or because of sea level rising? It's a real issue. And I know your mind, you're saying, oh, that ain't gonna ever happen. Ask countries where it's happened. There are places right now, there are islands that are no more. And that's the reality of climate change. My special guest, of course, is the advisor in the Office of the Prime Minister on Climate Change and Environmental Matters, Rochelle Newbold. And before the break, I was quoting something that Savi Benabi said online, and it was what many people are asking: what could Bahamians do? What should we do to act, to be able to mitigate or fight against or slow up what's happening, if that's even possible?
Yeah, well, the thing is that the Earth is a living organism, so it tries to react and it tries to adjust based on what it's being impacted by or any changes that are occurring. But man has the propensity and the willpower to always seek to destroy and change and mold things. The best thing we can do is to try to live in harmony with nature, meaning if there is a wetland in your neighborhood, don't consider that a mosquito pond and therefore wanting to fill it in. What a wetland really is a sponge. What it does is, during the times of storm surges, it will hold the water in the area in which it occupies, and when that storm goes out and recedes, it would allow the water to go out.
Really?
Yes. What happens, though, is we fill in the wetland, right? And then we throw a house on top of it, and then the storm surge comes, and the water, following the natural topography of the benthic environment of the ocean, it comes right back into the land. When it gets into the land, there's nothing to hold it. So it sits around your house, it goes into the road, it goes all around the neighborhood, and when the storm recedes, it stays, because we've changed the way the land flows. We've changed the dynamics where that water would have gotten sucked into the soil and then drained out through that soil and being drawn back out during the high-low tide changes. But that doesn't happen anymore because we've done that. I live in a community where we had wetlands on both sides, on the east and the west. The east side wetland got filled in, and with just rain, the houses that used to border that flooded. The west side continued to thrive. When the hurricanes came, the west side continued to do its job. It held the water, it expelled it back out. It's the east side, the water came in and it stayed for days. We also need to stop removing the vegetation off the land. Don't buy your property, which is already very expensive, and then seek to cut down every living thing that's on top of it, and then throw dirt on it, and then throw your house on it, then go to the landscaper and pay more some money to put some other things on it, then use up the water to water those things you bought. So we seem to be working harder, not smarter. Using natural vegetation allows the earth to do what it needs to do. It provides areas for the water to be absorbed into the earth, and it also provides a cooling effect through the transpiration that the leaves generate. If your land is hot, it's because you have no vegetation on it. Trees naturally bring down the temperature. That's why we seek to go under the tree into the shade, because that's what it naturally does. If we would just do these two little things, stop clearing land and filling in wetlands, and plant more native trees, we would see these microclimates being created in our neighborhoods that make it a little bit more bearable. And then those of us who have the opportunity or the financial wherewithal, what we can do now too is try and utilize more solar power as opposed to using fossil fuel-based things. My biggest pet peeve that I try to bring to the attention of Bahamians is, cheap is cheap for a reason. We buy a lot of these little $2,000, $3,000 Japanese cars. This is because Japan itself, by 2050, will not be making anything, no parts, no anything for that vehicle. They're slowly, from 2030 to 2050, they're going to be EV vehicles straight throughout. Everywhere on this planet, any major automotive industry is changing to EV. Even the United States, who bucked it at first, who didn't want to do it, so they thought, oh, we could do hybrids. And then they're easing their way incrementally into it. Do not allow yourself to become the dumping ground, the receiver.
That's what's happening. They're sending all those vehicles out of their country because they're not going to use them anymore.
Exactly. And then what you find, and I think we've even starting to experience it now, if you need a carburetor or a transmission or whatever,
you can't find the parts for it.
Exactly. So I park my little car, and the more I come and I put my keys and I turn it, and nothing happened because my mechanic fellow friend there done gone in. abscond with that for the other person's vehicle. We don't want to create a society where we're so dependent on other things to happen that we robbing Peter to pay Paul. We need to become more independent. We need to become more driven as a people to make sure that we can ensure we have a future where we are thriving, not surviving, but actually thriving. That means that we might have to make hard decisions. We might have to pull that money until we can get the vehicle that will last us for another 20 years, not the vehicle that will last us for 5 years, because that's a waste of funds.
Energy efficiency is so important because I believe it helps to reduce the cost of electricity, right? And of course, if it's hotter, you burn more, you use more. The refrigerator is constantly in use. You're constantly trying to keep the air conditioner on to keep you cool and so forth. And I've found that people whose homes have energy efficient appliances and light bulbs, their electricity bill is significantly less than those who don't have those things in place. So there is a direct relation between what you use and consume because of the heat and your electricity bill if you use more energy efficient models, correct?
Anything that emits heat in your house is drawing a lot of energy. And so you need to utilize light bulbs. When you touch them, they're never hot.
Right.
Those are the ones. And yes, that might cost you a couple more cents or $1 or $2, depending on how high value it is. But what you're doing is saving yourself that same level of investment over time. And sometimes, that's what I say, don't go for cheap. Cheap isn't always the best way to go. Now, I can tell you that what we're doing is we're, through the National Emissions Registry, we're bringing on several initiatives to try to help businesses, to try to help residential homeowners, those social safety nets that we have, provide them with opportunities like tax breaks and exemptions to bring in these sort of technologies such that they would be able to lessen the grid. Because what we don't need is no load shedding because it's too hot for that.
No, we can't be doing that. Can't be doing that. Are you ensuring that they pass on these same savings to the consumers? Because it'd be wonderful if I get tax break as a business owner, but am I passing that on?
Yes. A part of the program initiative would be to ensure that the consumer at the tail end of the whole program is also experiencing a benefit, because now you have the opportunity to get something into the country where you're saving a couple dollars. That saving has to be passed on.
Now I'm gonna ask, because we did this whole ban on plastics. Is that helping? Are we seeing the results of that? Does it make sense?
Well, plastic bans in general is a global issue. For the Bahamas, microplastics in the ocean is bad for us. It's bad for our fisheries, because what happens is the fish eat that thinking they're belly full. They're not eating, the fish dies. We never get to eat the fish because the fish is gone. The birds are dying, the sharks are dying, the whales are dying. Everybody is dying because everybody's trying to use plastics. So globally, there is this whole issue. Single-use plastics must be done away with, and that's why you see they have a lot of bamboo. People are utilizing bamboo, or they're trying to recycle plastics or reutilize the plastic in another way, so that it's not a one-time off product, but that it has other iterations whereby it'll be lending itself to the use for the good of mankind.
This, no doubt, can make people overwhelmed. They may say, well, what am I going to do? This Bahamas all I know. What do I do? What do you say to people as to, I guess, offer some level of hope and to people who may think, well, gee, we're all just going to die?
Well, I mean, there is always two sides to the coin. If we do nothing, we will all die. If we're not out there making sure people are aware of our cause, the fact that we do exist and they are threatening our very existence, then they're going to continue doing what they're doing, and then we're going to continue to suffer. So our job is one. As parents, I always encourage them, get your children to look at new and innovative education streams. The doctor, the baker, the candlestick maker, they're gone. They're gone. Everything is changing, and we must change with it. We need to also change our habits. Our culture is intrinsic to us. Like you say, if the Bahamas was wiped out to face the earth, that's a whole people that's just lost, like the Lucayan Indians. Where are they now? Right? We cannot follow suit. We inherited what they left behind. Let's make sure that that is our trademark, to show that we are a thriving, surviving people. We came from good African stock. We were able to survive that transatlantic trip. We are strong people. And therefore, we need to use our youth, our vitality, our wisdom to plan for a future that enables us to be a strong, vibrant country. Like I said, the Bahamas is out there. The Prime Minister is out there giving a speech. He's pleading. He's agitating, he's invoking the call, not just for Bahamas, but for all the island countries of the world. The Bahamas was one of the first of 5 countries to sign on to the UN Law of the Sea. We have always been at the forefront of global change. Our people need to remember. The Bible says that it's important for us to know our past so that we will be able to understand what our future holds. If we don't understand who we are as a people, people could come in and tell us anything. They can sell us any bill of goods. But we are a strong, vibrant people, and we need not let climate change, we need not to let global economic downturns, take care of our neighbors, look after each other, inspire our communities the way they used to be, what our parents and our grandparents talked about. We are the same people. There is no way for us to go. Everybody is seeing this insular move within countries. The United States is putting high taxes and tariffs on imports of goods from other places. We also have the ability to do that. In the Caribbean, CARICOM is a tool that we've been using since the 1960s. I remember as a kid, boats used to come in with fruits and vegetables coming from the south, from the southern islands of the Caribbean. We need to harmonize as a people and take care of our needs, but we also need to let the world know that we're not cutting them no slack, we ain't giving them no blind. They need to own up to what they have done, and they need to do what they promised to do, because we have a differentiated responsibility, meaning you're a guy, I'm a woman. I might not be able to lift the same amount of you, but if we're both lifting to try to get from one thing to another, we will be more efficient together than it is for one of us to be working separate from the other. And that's the important part right there. We're all got one planet. All of us need to use this one planet in a way that allows it to function properly. It ensures a good livelihood for everybody living here. Everybody can be in peace. There's justice. There's a thriving community of people. Without that, the world fails.
Yeah.
If the world fails, we all fail.
Rochelle Nouveau, thank you so much for coming on and sharing that with us. And hopefully our people will become more aware and take a stand and understand what we're doing on the front line globally for our nation. Thank you for coming on tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Still to come tonight, buying a home. How difficult or easy is it in the Bahamas? Well, we'll discuss this and more right after the break. You do not want to go anywhere. We're back after this.
Hardware is the helpful place. Everything you need under one roof, from electrical, paint, plumbing, outdoor, barbecue, automotive, lawn and garden, pet supply, houseware, and seasons. Hurricane season is now here, so for all your hurricane needs, we have a 25% off bargain zone.
Hey, thanks. I would have given more stuff, but I didn't bring my money. I thought this was a club, and I thought everything was free. Finally know what it is now. Ace.
We're located on St. Albans Drive, West Bay Street, open Monday to Saturdays from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and closed for lunch 2 p.m. to 3 p.m.
Wondering where your favorite shows went? Well, they're still right here at ZNS with new times and some with new days. You can catch Chef Manny auditioning up on Mondays at 9:30 p.m. Shop Treatment gets your youth in order at 9 p.m. on Tuesdays. The Legal Brief with Ramona Farquharson brings you the best legal advice on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. And Gavel Slam, Case Closed. Justice for Judge Carroll is back on air Thursdays at 9 p.m. And on Thursdays at 9:30, Bonte and Nika B brings you The Drop. So welcome to the new ZNS, where only the sun covers the Bahamas better.
I don't know, but what kind of cars is this parking? You ain't even know where to park. Yeah, that's no parking. Look at this way. Like, you ain't get nowhere to go. No parking. That's no parking. Yeah, that's handicap. No, you can't park. I ain't gonna be that long. I ain't gonna be that long. Handicap spot, boy, what's going on, dog? I tell you we shouldn't park here now. This way parking. I tell you we shouldn't park here. Don't get one of these things. My bar big broke, and he got a sticker inside. This ain't this mud though. We gotta move. This is handicap spot. But we gotta move. Don't. We can move right now. Sorry.
Be considerate. Don't use disabled parking spaces without a decal in your vehicle. This message is brought to you by the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities.
back to the rundown, and thank you for all of you who are tuning in and watching, especially those of you online on YouTube and, of course, in the Lions Den here on Facebook. We're so appreciative for you. Well, this next topic I think is important. Many of you want to hear about it. It's perhaps the biggest investment you'll ever make, purchasing a home. While it's a dream of many, the reality is a different story. Whether you want to build or purchase, it seems like obstacle after obstacle steps in your way when you make up your mind to get it all done. So let's give you some tips on how we can do this. My teleprompter operator is obviously having a bad day today. My next guest knows all too well how to overcome these challenges. Having been a top salesperson in 2023 for HG Christie Real Estate, and now he is set to bring all the players together this weekend for a special exchange. His name is, of course, Darren Seymour. Welcome to the show. So good to have you.
Good to be here.
Okay, so let's talk about it, because people, who doesn't want a home? Right? People want to have their home. It's a sense of achievement, sense of accomplishment, but more important than that, it's something people thrive for, to be able to own their home and not rent all the days of their lives. Is buying a home something that can be easy, or is it a difficult thing to do?
It can be a daunting task, and many persons I interact with tell of the experiences they have going through the process, the banking process. And customer service is a problem in our country in many areas. Some people talk about the legal process. And then the thing about it, in the Bahamas, we don't have registered title like in the United States. And so the average transaction, I was told when I first came into real estate, was 4 to 6 months. I've seen it 9 months, like a pregnancy, or even beyond a year.
Wow, just to get things done.
There's so many things. For example, you know, with the tax now, we now have the tax implementation of the tax system, because before the Bahamas didn't really have a tax system. Now we have tax. That's an issue. That's something that people have to overcome.
Because Inland Revenue has to be able to ensure that all their satisfactions are met and make sure you have nothing outstanding before you can even go forward a transaction.
Your property has to be registered in the system. And even before you pay off a loan, the bank would ask you for your tax certificate, because they have to ensure that you owe no taxes on that. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to get your satisfaction of mortgage.
Wow.
And so it's very necessary. Now we have the implementation of the credit bureau, where everybody, you can have all of your loans in one place. So you have to be very responsible in how you lend, and because it's all going to affect whether you're going to be able to qualify for a loan.
What do you advise people? You're in real estate, so I'm almost sure I know what the answer is going to be. Is it sometimes better to build, or is it better to buy?
It depends on where you are in your life. Personally, I'm at that turning point. I could build or I could buy. Right now in the Bahamas, the cost of building is more expensive. We're just out of COVID. We're just out of COVID. And prices are higher right now. So persons may choose to buy something that is less. Right now, I had a home on the market, over $1 million, but to build that home would cost more than to buy. So why go through the headache of going through the process of building when you have something that's feasible for you to buy? And so it depends on the situation. Right now, most persons would say it's a seller's market, but you still have deals in the market. Just before you came, we went to a house out west, and you know it's hard to find a home in the west over below 500,000. But interestingly, we have one there. So you have deals in the market, even though maybe a seller's market. There are condos that you can buy. There are opportunities. So it depends on the situation. You can buy, you can build, or you can buy. It depends on your appetite.
The average Bahamian, obviously, if they want to build or buy a home, will probably go through the route of financing. I don't know if the average Bahamian has saved up $500,000 in the bank and say, hey, I want to buy a home. Here's my money. Go ahead, buy it. And even if that was the case, the home would be $500,000. By the time you pay the fees, the stamp tax, and all the other taxes associated with it, it's a whole lot of stuff. It almost feels as though banks aren't wanting to lend the money because it seems to be so much red tape in being able to purchase a home. As a real estate agent, how do you overcome the hurdle when people say, listen, I want to buy, but the hassle of going through the bank and what the bank is asking for does not seem realistic in this day and time?
But you know, first of all, you don't have to go through a bank. You can go through some insurance companies. Some people don't know you can go through credit unions. There are a lot of avenues. And nowadays, today, as a lot of people don't know, the central bank, which regulates banks, has made it a lot easier for Bahamians in terms of reducing the requirement in terms of deposit requirements, relaxing them. Now, of course, as a country as a whole, we want to be responsible because reality is some Bahamians do not pay their bills, which could make it difficult for us. But the central bank has relaxed. Of course, it's all based on the person's level in terms of have you been saving. Also, you've been paying off your loan. So they're not just going to just go and issue it to anyone. The standard deposit is 10%. Now, some banks like CIBC before allowed Bahamians to just come up with 5% down. Now, you have banks like Scotiabank, since the relaxation, can offer that service. The reason why CIBC could do it because they had something called indemnity insurance to insure their risk. And so, at the end of the day, we don't want the Bahamas to collapse because people don't pay off their loans. It's not that the banks don't really want you to get a loan, you know. They have to protect their risk. At the end of the day, they don't want you to have to suffer the embarrassment of having to lose your home. And, you know, so therefore you have to be pre-qualified. So this is why we're having this conference on the weekend. We have CIBC, we have Scotiabank going to be on hand for giving free advice, getting you pre-qualified so that you will be ready. Right now, it's September. I'm already in 2025 because the average transaction, like I said, finance takes 4 to 6 months. So this is a reset now, getting persons ready for what's happening in 2025. A lot of things are also based on even the U.S. market. You know, we're preparing for the elections in the U.S. market. Does that affect us? Yes, it does.
How does it affect us?
Some people are in a wait and see position. That is not just the local investor, but also the U.S. investors or even Canadians. We're affected by the U.S. Wow. And so persons are at a standstill waiting and seeing. At the same time, you still have opportunities even now that persons can take advantage of. And so we're inviting persons to come to this conference because you want to get pre-qualified from early in the morning, 11 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and also be a part of the discussions. We have top experienced persons like John Christie, the managing director of H.C. Christie, who's going to be there giving you a free advice. We have the Bahamas Contractors Association talking about building. He's Mr. President, Mr. Leonard Sands. He's going to be there. We have financial experts, Scotia, CIBC. We have lawyers like Graham Thompson. We have the government going to be there. The Senator Darren Cash going to talk about this legislation that's coming. So we have a perfect opportunity for you to come and experience it. Also, we have developers like Palm Key and also Goldwyn going to be in the house. So every level of the investment, whether you are at $1 million or above, or down to 300,000, we're going to be represented there. $10,000 in Exuma. You can get a property in Exuma for $10,000.
10 grand?
Yeah.
Nobody go buy your property in Exuma. That's going to be worth a lot in a matter of years.
Listen, you heard the lady talking about climate change earlier, but all of these, you're affected by real estate. And most rich people in the world got their riches through real estate. Stock investments are good. We've been in banking, but real estate is still number one investment.
I have a question for somebody who's in the line, and she says, ask them if there are any reliable rent-to-own programs that can alleviate the stress of going through a bank initially. Is rent-to-own easier?
Rent-to-own is an option. It's more or less a financing option. That's each owner decide on whether they're going to enter into that. It's very risky. It's something I don't practice or encourage because most of the times persons are really not qualified. You know, they go into these transactions and then they said, the transaction said you come up with about 50% of them funds. And in 3 years, if you don't come up with the balance, you're going to lose that, all of that. And sometimes people go in and say, I'm going to believe in faith that I'm going to have, and they find themselves disappointed because you're really not qualified for that. Now, that could work for someone who may be getting a lump sum, you know, in the next 2 or 3 years, they know for sure. But you know, you still have to be pre-qualified. You still have to know that this is something that would work for you. Yes, it can work in some cases, and you do have some developers like the Tuscan Shores, like some persons decide that they would self-finance or they would own a finance. But it sounds good, but you have to see whether that is really the thing for you.
Are Bahamians prepared to become homeowners? Based on what you see, people have contacted you, people have come to you. Is the average Bahamian prepared to be able to go into the whole idea of purchasing or building a house?
You do have some Bahamians who are prepared, who have their savings. You know, they've saved up their down payment. They've saved up their closing costs because they're educated and they understand what needs to be done. It's like going to a doctor. Some people, I'm not going to go to the doctor because, you know, they're afraid. We're bringing the experts to them to give them the information. It doesn't hurt to know what you need to do, even if you do not qualify. You know, you know that if you don't qualify, that you need to get rid of this loan in order that you would be qualified. And that's why we're having these assessments now, so that you be prepared and know and be ready for when the opportunity hits. So yes, a lot of people are not ready, but we're here to help and ensure that they are ready by giving them the financial expertise, giving them the legal expertise, giving them all the tools like the inland revenue experts that are going to be at this conference to help them make informed decisions so that you're not crying down the road that, you know, you went and tried to invest in this $500,000 house and at the end of the day, you lose it with the banks.
What does the average house cost? The average house?
You know, we have different, that's a wide question, but, you know, because we have so many, we have an archipelago. So you have Abaco.
Middle class, Bahamian living in the capital, middle class, decent home for a family. What would that run you into?
$300,000 to $500,000.
And so you would need down, well, how much money would that person need to secure between obviously them and their spouse to ensure that they're able to close on this and cover costs?
So if it's $300,000 house, 10% down.
30,000.
Yeah, and or you can, you know, some banks now saying 5% down, and then you need your closing costs. You can average, you know, let's say 2.5% for the legal fees. You have to pay the government because now they're requiring a certain amount. Let's just say 10%. You know, the government now has made it easier for Bahamians. You know, they have a graduated scale, but let's just say 10%, and usually the buyer and the seller share those costs. So let's say 5% plus 2.5% legal fees. And of course, the seller, in most cases, pays the real estate commission.
So you're looking at roughly about $40,000 on a $300,000 home.
It can be, yeah.
So that's something you have to plan up and save for.
You plan and you save, yes. And that's something it's not in our culture to save, but it's something that we have to train ourselves and become, you know, put it in our system to do it. Because other people are doing it, we can do it too.
We can do it too. Tell us again, now on Saturday, the Bahamas Real Estate Exchange, which you've started, you're bringing all of the necessary people together under one roof so Bahamians can learn more about how to become homeowners and qualify.
Right.
Tell them where this is going to happen and what they need to do.
We're bringing a lot of the significant players on board. Of course, in one conference, you can only bring so many people. So we recognize that there are other stakeholders that may not be a part of this conference, but in general, we have a great representation of persons who will be there to help them, the bankers, the lawyers, the surveyors, the
construction companies,
and of course the realtors, and also the tax expert. So also we have an expo at the beginning where businesses are allowed to promote their business. So persons will be there like AC technicians, generator persons who will be there to talk about home, what they offer in terms of a home. Anything that you can think about regarding a home will be there so that you can get great advice for your future development.
How can people get more information or register? What are they
can register for Eventbrite, or you can go to See More Real Estate. That's SEEMOREREALESTATE.com. Call me at 357-9003 or call H.E. Christie. They will give you that information, 322-1041.
Saturday, 11 to 5.
11 to 5. Come out. Don't miss it. This is your opportunity now. Get your piece of the rock. Don't complain that the foreigners, they will be there. We have invited some persons, even at Goldman, Let's see if the Bahamians take advantage of this, another opportunity for you to expand and grow.
Darren, thank you so much for being a part of the show tonight. We appreciate you. This show has been brought to you by Jamaica Bahama Imports. Click the I Am a Boatman concert with KB and Friends, CBS, Little Caesars Pizza, Ace Hardware, the Small Business Development Center, Bamboo Shack Express. If your business is on that, then you're not serious about doing business. You got to get on this list, man. What you waiting on? Call us and let's get you on this list today. That's our show for tonight. But tomorrow, you're here talking about banks? The president of the Bahamas Clearing Banks Association will be here. We're asking him all the tough questions. What y'all doing with all these fees going up? Why y'all putting up all these fees in banks? Why y'all doing all these things about modernization to get people out of the bank? We're going to put the tough questions to the clearing banks tomorrow. You do not want to miss that show. Also, I've got a story that's going to inspire you. If you remember the tragic death of Don Saunders, well, we've got something inspiring to tell you regarding his son. And his son will actually be here tomorrow night. It's going to be a great show tomorrow night. You don't want to miss it. That does it for us at Rundown. For all of us here at ZNS News, I'm Clint Watson. Thanks so much for joining us. Don't forget to join us for the Bahamas tonight at 11 with Royston Jones. I already see him. He's here getting ready for 11 o'clock. We'll see you tomorrow night. Good night, everyone.